at Landon Huber Studios. So, what I'm going to be doing today is drawing a picture of Apostrophe. Apostrophe is this sort of disgruntled and I wouldn't say he's got a bad attitude, but he's just he doesn't see things quite like period. And yeah, if you can see here, the Punctuation Men is this superhero satire comic, and these characters are based on punctuation marks. So here you have period, and here you have apostrophe, and here you have Renan Sentence, the evil Frenchman. And the back of the book is kind of cool too. You know, it's a fold out, full cover. This is a hench thing, these little four-armed guys that are in servitude to the evil Renan Sentence. And this is a fan favorite, is Brad the Lotion Salesman. The Punctuation Man. It's a really cool comic. I'm selling bundles right now on eBay. And soon it'll be available at a store near you. You just have to ask for it. And I'll let you know when that happens. But if you want, these were originally created in 2003. But I'm bringing it back, and I'm going to be putting out an issue 2 this year. And anyway, it's a really fun superhero satire comic. Also, if you caught any of the previous streams, I drew this guy, the period. Let me see if I can find that. But yeah, go back and watch the previous 2 streams. You'll see me penciling and inking this piece right here. And it's the period character punching through a wall. And today, I'm going to be drawing his sidekick, Apostrophe. So here we go. Get a pencil here. Alright. So I'm kind of thinking of maybe having him kind of, his head would be somewhere around here. And you see I've already kind of mapped out the front, you know, because the head has planes. It's not a perfect circle, so you just need a few lines to just let yourself know more or less where the planes are going to go. You know, it helps you out. But what I'm thinking, and you know, you can always revise as you go along here, but I'm thinking that I want him kind of crouched down. I'm not sure though if that head should be that far over, because I wanted to show more of his cape. So let's try that again. I don't know, it's kind of the way that I draw, like I have to kind of know where that head's gonna be, and then everything else kind of stems from that. I might have to find this one through scribbling a bit. You know, some people get like fixated on things like head sizes and all this stuff. And if that's your style, you know, if that's what you're going for, then, you know, you can follow those rules. But there is a thing of like, you know, what are you going for in the art? Like, I did a Space Ghost piece recently. I haven't shown that, but I will in the near future. And when I first drew it, I liked it was actually ended up being a painting, but I liked the basic way that it looked, and I made his head a little bit large. And when you're thinking of that in terms of like, you know, if you're going for realism or whatever, or if you're like, oh, I want to capture the heroic proportions, you know, then it wouldn't seem correct. But I A-B'd it, kind of, you know, I took into Photoshop and I shrunk it digitally just to see what it would look like. And even though, yeah, when I shrunk the head, it became like, you know, I guess more correct hero proportions. I felt like the piece lost something, though, you know? I felt like it lost something. Because by shrinking the head in this case, the head lost prominence. So, what I ultimately determined was that it is not always about like the proportion. You know, it's more about dramatic effect. And I felt that the dramatic effect became increased in this case by having the head larger, you know. Now, there's great artists who follow proportions, you know, and of high stature, and I respect them. But if you're going for something that's a little bit more emotional or exaggerated, or you want to focus on a particular element, then you have to break those rules, you know, in order to achieve that look. I don't know why, but I'm seeing a big moon, not a small moon, but like a big moon. And what I'm thinking he's doing here is just kind of reaching around a wall here. So I'm thinking this will be like a broken chunk of wall that just kind of goes out like that, and then maybe up here you'll see some huge chunks of rubble. I don't want to get too fixated on all this stuff down here. It's just going to be enough to give the piece some interesting shapes, and it's just enough that you know, oh, that looks like broken rubble, you know. But yeah, so here we go. In this case, I don't think his head should be that large, actually. Alright, so maybe just a little bit of some building in the background again, because the setting of the Punctuation Men is really, you know, in the classic like cityscape, you know. Like, I love stories of like the Swamp Thing that take place in the swamps and things like that. But the thing that I like about the Punctuation Men is it plugs into the, even though the premise is silly and goofy and all that, it plugs into, because there are superheroes, it plugs into the thing that makes like the nostalgic quality of superhero comics, you know. It actually plugs into that. Now, you would think that maybe I draw this character all the time, but the truth is, like all these characters I'm going to be drawing, I have not drawn this character in 20 years. And because he's the Apostrophe, he's got this A on his head. And I think when we were first designing him, we were like, doesn't Captain America have... We were like, should we put the comma on his chest, or put the comma up here? And I think just the earlier iterations, he had the comma down here. But I think actually Ricky Gordon, who this character is based on, he is probably the one that kind of took the, more or less, you know, created the, well, I don't know. We were iterating back and forth. I mean, it's really, most of the characters are created by both of us, but I think that this version of Apostrophe, I think it was based on this little drawing that he did after we had already iterated, you know, a couple times on it. And then, you know, I just like fleshed it out from there. But I think the main things that he added were this mask, you know, him wearing this mask. I think the earlier versions, he had the comma up here on his head, and then Ricky's responsible, I think, for putting that mask on. At least in the original design of it, you know. Now, I don't want to I want to have a fair amount of this in shadow so that it has a contrast and a mood, you know. And so I just need to show enough. Here's another thing I'm not sure. I think that the character having the octagonal shaped knee pads may have been my contribution. But what I'm just sitting here deliberating is because you know, basically the original, you know, Punctuation Man was created by me and Ricky. And then Jared came along afterwards, after we had already drawn like several images and created these little characters. And he thought what we were doing was cool. And as I've said before, we all had, before the comic actually got drawn, we all met at Jared's house, and we had kind of these vague ideas of a story, and everybody kind of pitched the ideas into the, you know, into the soup. And then Jared was the one who assembled the creation that me and Ricky had created into a, you know, a cohesive script. And so, hence X667 Studios was born. But X667 Studios is, you know, that the only thing they ever did was this comic book. However, I took it upon myself to, and I got they were cool with it. I got their, you know, permission, but I took it upon myself to basically bring it back after years of being dormant. Over the years, though, Punctuation Man sold about 12, maybe about 1,150 copies or so. Which for indie comic is, even though it was over a long period of time, you know, it's not terrible. But even still, though, it never got like a decent distribution deal. You know, it's pretty much still like a buried thing, and I was doing other things for years. But I just felt recently that I really wanted to give it another push, you know, give it another go. Because I think it deserves to be remembered. Well, I have to be honest, I'm not 100% happy with what I'm doing here yet. Yeah. Alright, this hand, I want it to be big. Because having it big, it's like, yeah, it looks huge, right? It looks like, but then Kirby did that, you know? I'm trying to, all good comics, this is a, maybe going too far to say this, but many good comics, I should say, try to somehow get the spirit of Kirby in there. You know. If you don't like Jack Kirby, if you don't, you know, I don't know what, you must not like comics then. But I guess there's, you know, to each his own. Everybody has different things they like, and that's fine. But anyway, what I'm getting at though is like, even like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which, you know, is so awesome, but why? And of course, there's many reasons. But the you know, when they were like the genesis of it, like when they were like actually originally coming up with them and stuff, they've said multiple times in interviews, Eastman and Laird have said multiple times that they were heavily influenced by Jack Kirby and other, you know, and other great comic book artists. So that spirit is in the Ninja Turtles, you know, the exaggerated proportions and you know, stylized anatomy and all this stuff. Alright. I gotta tackle this hand now. Here we go. I could, you know, I'm most of the time I am kind of searching, you know, because I'm asking myself, could I make it better? It's like this hand, you know, okay, that might work, right? But maybe it could be better. You know, maybe a shape could be better, or, you know. It's kind of like part of the fun of it, you know. There's another building back here. Part of the fun of comics is this cape kind of coming down more, and I get another bit of the cape I got here, kind of waving around back there. Yeah, part of the fun of comics is you know, experimentation. Alright, see now, I don't want to get too much right here because I want to leave a certain amount empty there so that I'll get more contrast with this hand. So it's about design, you know, too. Like, that's why, you know, it's great, you know, if it helps you to use those little, like, body kun mannequins, or these, or those, like, little wooden things, or even, like, 3D programs and whatnot. You know, never begrudge somebody help, but what I found is that when you become reliant upon those things too much, instead of thinking through dynamic shapes, that your art, what it gains in realism, it loses in dynamism, and it actually ends up feeling stiff. Now, one thing I'm doing here is I have a basic idea of what Apostrophe's clothing is and stuff. But now, like, the details of his suit is going to be one of the last things I worry about, because at first I want to establish shadow shapes, and wherever I'm going to be drawing shadow, you're not going to be seeing much as far as details in there. So why get all caught up in those things in the beginning? You shouldn't. So here we go. Kind of like hands is kind of cool. Kind of small. So that's another thing. It's like by keeping this hand larger here, I did bring it down just a little bit, but maybe I'll make that finger bigger so it's more interesting. And I'll kind of continue this like it's a broken shard of rock or something. But basically by this hand kind of being smaller, yes, of course I'm trying to create depth there, but it's also contrast. Like the eye sees big, small, you know. It's more interesting than if the more equal these two hands are, probably the less interesting it's going to be. So our perception finds contrasts interesting. Not only contrast in black and white, although that's a part of like your whole design toolbox, but you know, contrast in form, you know, big, small. I would say the same thing applies to music. You take like bands like Nirvana or System of a Down. Why, you know, there's many reasons why Nirvana, you know, was so good and is so long lasting in terms of like, you know, cultural impact and everything and influence, but draw just a window, just a little indication of a window. I don't want to get too much going on with the windows because I don't want to. This picture isn't about the windows. And I'm trying to keep certain elements important and others not. So I'll just kind of have it fade out. So you'll just see some indication of windows up there and then kind of fade out. And then these ones you won't even see any because they're too far away, you know. I like this big moon. But anyways, sorry for that. Yeah, I have a tendency to bounce around. But my point is, though, about what I was talking about with the music is, you know, he would create sonic contrast by having choruses that were very, you know, light, and then it would erupt into this gigantic sounding, you know, chorus section, whereas the verse was very, you know, it wasn't like a rule of thumb or anything because he just went with the flow of the music. But on the songs where, you know, it did behave like that, like songs like Lithium or Smells Like Teen Spirit, man, that was just such a powerful effect. You know, Okay. So I've been doing these streams every Saturday. This is the third one, so go check out. If you like what you're seeing here, go check out some of those previous streams and help support independent comics by supporting the Punctuation Men. If you don't have heroes and villains, and that's not to say your heroes can't be complex and stuff, you know, there's all different shapes and sizes, but if you just remove the villain, you don't have a story. You just don't, you don't have anything at that point, you know? I heard recently that Disney was gonna be removing the villains from their Disneyland stuff, and wow, you're just removing everything then, you know? It's like you have no story now. And then you want to remove the pirates too? I am a big admirer of the legacy of Disney, but that was rooted in, you know, a more down-to-earth world, you know? And that was rooted in a more imaginative time where, you know, creativity and imagination was allowed to exist freely. And there wasn't this ridiculous thinking of, oh, well, we don't want to make the kids think that, you know, it's okay to be, I don't know what the thinking is behind it. It's like, you're just taking all the imagination out of this stuff, and you're basically just turning it, you're just neutering it, and it's just becoming totally, it's nothing. You have nothing anymore, because it's not, you're missing the point, you know. It's not the existence of the villain isn't as, you know, a role model necessarily. It's as, hey, you know, these forces exist in the world, right? These demented characters, you know, and you can take a lot of those Disney classic cartoons, and many of them feature, you know, demented characters in Pinocchio, or, you know, whether it's Snow White, or, you know, on and on and on. But by removing the demented characters, you're just removing the heart and soul of the film itself. Because you're removing the contrast. You know, I'm bringing it back around to my original point of contrast. What do you have to contrast against anymore, you know, if you've removed it? If you've totally removed it. Okay, so we are, how long has this stream been going on? Check it out. I can usually see Alright, we're at about a half hour or so. But already, you can see, as far as the penciling goes, you can see where this piece is going, you know. Now, at some point, you have to be careful about adding elements or not, you know. This is funky, what's going on here. There, fixed. Because the more that you add, the more information you start to add in here, the more things there are for your eye to sort of get stuck on. Now see, this stuff over here is starting to look kind of like a broken pile of rubble, which is what it is, but I kind of wanted for you to see a bit of brick in there, so I'm going to see if I can show that. But again, even what I'm doing by adding brick texturing over here is adding information that I'm have to be wary of, because I have had an issue before of overdoing the information, you know. And I don't want to do that necessarily again here. Maybe I'll have a cool like smoke shape. Maybe over here more of a cool smoke shape. I kind of make it look like it's trailing off. Alright. But yeah, like you can see it in comics, like go back and check out like the greats, you know, like Kirby, or you know, fast forwarding in time, go check out Jim Lee. And if you really look at it, like when he was really hitting his stride, and not that he isn't now, I mean he's made a lot of great work, but when he was like really like hitting his stride, like in the early 90s, you know, with the selling 8 million copies of X-Men and all that, you know, like really look at the art, and yeah, there's many places where things are merely indicated and not fully drawn, because he was focusing on the dynamics and the, you know, the parts that were more interesting. Anyway, not to beat a dead horse, but it is a something that's important to sort of think about. Okay. Apostrophe, he's got this this like shape here. He's got these pockets or patches, whatever they're called. Pouches, that's it. And I guess. I just show some of the indication of the edge of the pouches. Alright. So what I'll be doing next week, you guys want to come back and join me for another round of fun. I'll be inking this next Saturday. So that'll be cool to see you guys over here next Saturday. For you to experience the magic. I think maybe I was gonna do like a big bird. Not like the big yellow one from Sesame Street, but I think that instead of that, I'm just gonna show a little indication of these little birds, and then they just become little dots. But your brain sees that as birds, you know, when you look at it. This eraser sucks. Alright. But yeah, Apostrophe, he's on the sides, his shoes are kind of interesting. So I'm going to take a look in here and see if it can help me a little bit. So like I said, it's been a minute, guys. So he's got a little bit of a pad there. And a line, these little stripes that go on the sides of his. Got that. And yeah, actually, it's really is like kind of a double. A little bit of a double like thing going on in there, kind of make it a little bit dimensional of a knee pad there. Make this shape interesting. Should I make this dark? I don't think so. I think I'll leave it as kind of just a simple little brick indication in there. But yeah, that's kind of the part of the whole thing of creativity, you know. You don't always know exactly where the thing's going to end up, but you have the way it works for me, you know, is usually it starts with a vague concept, you know, like this one did. Just enough to get you going on something, you know. And then as the thing starts to evolve, you know, it starts to become something, right? Who would have thought? I'll go in here now and start doing a little bit of cleanup. If my freaking pen work, I just put in new batteries. Is it dead already? Stink. scratch that. I like these electrical erasers. Reduces my manual labor slightly. He does have these cool gloves on, so I want to make sure to indicate it at least there. That's pretty much all I needed. This is a dang eraser. Yeah, that's the problem with erasers, is they do lose their usefulness after a while. You kind of have to be new. You can get by on old other stuff, but you either have to like not let the air get to it or something. I don't like that. Or else erasers can start to lose their potency. Sometimes I will get like kind of fixated on a little area. Like, do I want the shape here to be more complicated or more simple, or somewhere in between? Sometimes you just gotta try it out and see what it looks like. It looks okay for now. Oh yeah, so if you've been watching, my name is Landon Huber. I'm a artist, illustrator, musician. Yeah, I would recommend you guys check out, I have over 100 videos on this YouTube channel, everything from music that I've created to I created a short film called Erratic. You should definitely see that if you like horror. Halloween art. I have a whole series called a playlist, Drawing on Fridays, the Landon Huber Experience. Check that out if you're into like Halloween art, because I do that too. I have a whole website, landonhuberstudios.com. You can see the link right here on this YouTube page, and that's my website, guys. I'm phasing out. I've been phasing out Etsy for a while. I think I only got like one shirt on there, but I'm just going to be doing my own thing on my own website now. I use eBay too, but I'm not really gonna get like too much on Etsy, because the Etsy fees and everything and the way the platform works, it wasn't really working for me. So but yeah, check out landonhuberstudios.com. You'll find links to prints that you can buy of mine that I created. Everything I sell is things that I've created, so it's not, I didn't hire out this stuff. I didn't pay somebody else for the art. I didn't use AI, all all the tricks that people use to sell you products, and not that like you know, a company buying art is not a trick necessarily. It's just part of commerce, part of the market. But what I'm saying is, what you're getting at LandonHuberStudios.com is directly from me. You know, except for the fact that the products are print on demand, which means, you know, they'll be printed if you order them. I don't stock a warehouse full of things, except for some 11 by 17 prints, which I sell on eBay. But other than that, and also the comics, I have 850 at the time of this video. I still have 850 of these that I'm selling, and I'm thinking about maybe possibly at some point trying out a couple other things. I'm thinking about maybe trying a Whatnot. I haven't tried that yet. I'm thinking about trying Kickstarter. You know, it seems to be I did try it before, maybe 6-7 years back when I was working on Bleen, but which is another thing that I illustrated. When I was working on that, we tried to do a crowdfunder, and it did not succeed at the time. But I may just in the near future here try to do another one for this Punctuation Man comic. So if you're interested, you know, follow me here on YouTube. I have an Instagram page, Landon Huber Studios, and you know, I would love the support, and you know, I'm doing my best here to make quality things, you know, that you guys would like. But yeah, check out that. Check out the Landon Huber Studios Halloween store. Check out the Punctuation Men. You know, you can get bundles. The lowest in the bundles that I'm selling right now is 5 copies, but that just means, it's still a really good deal, and you'd be able to get 5 copies to pass out to friends and family, or, you know, this Punctuation Men is kid friendly, so if you wanted to give it as a birthday present or a Christmas present to your kid, that would be something that they might enjoy, because even the fact that the Punctuation Man hasn't yet received global recognition, it has gotten good reviews. You can find those if you go to my website. It has, and people, I've had this experience over the years, people just coming up to me and just telling me, oh, I love your comic, you know. Just at, you know, random event, like maybe, you know, family parties, or, you know, it's happened before in school, or just randomly, you know. It's strange how that's why I'm still here doing this, because it feels like it wants to be something, you know. It wants to be more. And I've been getting like signals from the universe. Alright, well, I'm getting close though to being at a point where I feel that it's the crux of the idea is here, and that mostly whatever else needs to be figured out can be figured out in the inking. Let me check how much time we're at now. 55 minutes. All right, so we're doing good time-wise. Looks like so far my drawing streams seem to be somewhere in the neighborhood of an hour. The inking streams maybe a little longer than that, but you know, I may or may not stick to that. It's not like getting some like little debris around here. It's not like a format that I'm glued to, you know. Maybe someday I'll just do like a 3-hour stream and surprise everybody. Yeah. So that's it. Like, that's my process. It's not all about what you draw. It's also about what you don't draw. Because sometimes drawing more is making it worse. At this point, I'm just doing a few little refinements and thinking all about shapes, negative shapes. Maybe if I have a few like, I feel like I want to have it like the hair is blowing a little bit more, but maybe just one or two. Yeah, I don't know. Don't really like that. Yeah, see? He's got a little stripe going down. I think I want to indicate that. It's all folded on it. That's it. I won't see the one on the other side. I'll make this shape a little bit rounder. Oh, can't forget his sideburns. Apostrophe's got some sideburns. He's really the and this is kind of true. It was true at the time, especially of like me and Ricky's friendship. Was I was the goofball, you know, and he was the like a little bit more cynical. That's the word I was reaching for earlier. He was a little bit more, not in a bad way, just like kind of keeping it real, I guess you could say. Whereas I was like flight of fancy, like, you know, let's go do this or let's do that, you know. He's like, really? you know. And that's kind of the way that the punctuation men characters are. You know, this guy I'm drawing now, Apostrophe, is a little bit more cynical, a little bit more thinking that everything period does is, you know, it's like, oh, here we go again, you know. But then when they're kicking the supervillains' butts, or the hench things' butts, they work together as a team. Yeah, see, already at this point, I feel I'm starting to get in the area of over refinement, because it's, you don't want to lose the energy too much there. All right, guys. That's Apostrophe. And next week, I am going to be inking him. I hope the sound is a little bit better in this stream, because I don't know why I didn't do the first two streams, but I decided to go ahead and plug in my microphone this time instead of just going off of the phone microphone. And I did some tests before running the stream, but you know, I'm hoping that it comes across. I'm hoping the sound quality is a little bit louder, a little bit better than it was previously. But yeah, that's the show, guys. Thanks for joining me. Check out LandonHuberStudios.com. Check out Punctuation Men bundles on eBay. And thanks for watching.